Oi, 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 YouTube. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be exploring the patch notes for the 5.1.0 PTB. Now, this is the mid-chapter update that brings TRICKSTER changes and face reworks and a few other reworks. We're going to talk about all these right now. Let's go ahead and dive in here. Now, if you do like any of this, go ahead, check us out on twitch.tv/DyllonKG. We'll be live today, kind of exploring all of these, getting your thoughts. We may be doing custom games with you guys if queue times take, the way they normally have been. Let's dive into the meat and potatoes, though. TRICKSTER gameplay update, which I've already kind of talked about my thoughts on this a little bit, but let's dive in. They changed the laceration required to deal a health state from 8 to 6. It is now 6 knives to fully lacerate somebody. So now there's a faster laceration decay. The full bar depletes within 15 seconds and 20 seconds if you're running. So similar to like Plague's Infection, where like if you're not running, it doesn't really tick up. This will actually count down faster if you're not running, okay? Shorter delay before laceration starts. It's 10 seconds. It was 20 seconds. So now the laceration does start sooner and it depletes faster. And this is good news for when you're going against TRICKSTER and you do manage to sort of get away from him. I will say playing against him could be sort of agonizing sometimes, because if you get a good pallet stun, you do break line of sight, you're still running for 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds before your laceration started to decay. It became a lot. So the fact that it starts within 10 seconds, not bad at all. I'm okay with that. You should be able to close out your chases a little bit faster. Laceration removed upon successful basic attack is now 3. So if you have a bunch of knives in somebody and then you M1, it would remove some of those laceration stacks. Now it removes 3 instead of 4, so that you can, still get some knives in somebody M1 and still keep some of the progress, but it's not that impactful. Main events now has been changed. It starts throwing knives 1 second sooner. It used to be 1.5 seconds. Now it's 0.5 seconds for startup. So you could be in the middle of throwing and then switch to main event and not really lose a significant amount of distance. Previously, you would lose a good amount of distance because you weren't throwing knives and survivors would just be running. So hopefully this helps main event a little bit. Mid-chase. 30 knife hits required to activate main event. I think this is actually good. I think a lot of people are complaining that this is like kind of a nerf, but I think main event procs so often, it comes up in really, disadvantageous times. I can't tell you how many times it procs right as I down somebody. So the idea here, I think, is that I'll have 20, 21, 22 knives in somebody. And so in the next chase, main event will come up during the chase, not at the end of the previous chase. So I think it'll come up at better times because it takes longer. And then the new knife hit indicators have been added to show when knives connect with survivors. So there'll be better indicators to know when something connects. I think it's been fine, but it is a subtle audio cue. Because they reduced his laceration from 6 to 8, from 8 to 6. I don't know, I keep messing that up. Because they changed the laceration down from 8 to 6, they changed Melodious Murder, which it decreases knife reload time at lockers. I'm okay with this. I'm fine with this. I don't think that it should have made it so that it took 5 knives, right? Like I've always said, the closer that number gets to 1, the closer we have, the closer we are to having another Huntress. I don't like that idea. So it's cool that you don't have to run Iron Maiden. You could just run the Murder for like reload time. I'm fine with that. I think that's actually a good idea. The Soda has a smaller effect with regards to the speed that which you throw your knives. Typically, the Fizz Spin Soda would kind of start you off as if you'd already thrown 3 knives, because there is a ramp in terms of speed of throwing the knives. It starts you off at 2, so it's not like too fast. Not a big deal. The iridescent photo card, when survivor's laceration meter is 2 or less blade hits away from maximum, they're inflicted with exposed. It used to be that you would have to turn the bar red, right? So you'd have to get them all the way up to the final hit and then they would be exposed. I don't like that they kind of buffed it a little bit and made it more accessible. It wasn't really that hard to like count your knives and be very careful with them to be able to expose somebody. I think this is weird, but the Death Throws compilation, when main event ends, the TRICKSTER's knives are replenished. Death Throws automatically becomes an iridescent add-on that people will end up using a lot and is like good, Prior Death Throws was a good add-on, but you had to have insane aim, and so it became this add-on that was only for like the really high tier players. If you hopped into TRICKSTER, wanted to play a few rounds, and you saw that add-on, you'd probably play it, pick it up, and go, oh, that's awful, and not use it anymore, especially if you're on console, you weren't using old death throws. If you don't remember, old death throws would start you off at 0.5 laceration. So in theory, it would take 16 knives to lacerate somebody, but for each knife you hit in a row without missing, it would multiply up to 2 times laceration, right? But if you missed one, it would reset. And, you know, for what it is, I think like skill-based stuff in DBD is great, but not when it comes to add-ons. I think add-ons that are like highly skill-based are weird. Add-ons are supposed to be modifiers, and I think it changed his gameplay style way too much. It wasn't accessible to people it was an eerie add-on that nobody ran, right? So this is kind of nice. You use main event, you could even use it and cancel it just to get your knives back without skipping a beat. So not a bad idea. Lucky Blade, hitting a survivor with a blade during main event slightly extends its duration by 0.2 seconds. So you'd have to hit, 5 knives to get a whole extra second duration. It kind of doesn't really matter that much in my opinion, but. And then the waiting for you watch, hitting a survivor with a blade during main event moderately extends its duration to 0.3. You could stack these and have like insane main event duration. I don't think the duration of main event is its problem though. I wish there were add-ons for main event movement speed, right? Like pushing you to 99 or 100% movement speed instead of extending the duration. Because while you're in main event, you're moving at 96% movement speed. That means survivors that are looping around Shaq, they're getting distance on you the entire time. So it's super weird. I think these miss the mark on what the add-ons should or could be, but weird. No Way Out getting a huge buff. No Way Out gains a token after you hook a survivor for the first time, up to 4 tokens. Once the exit gates have been powered, No Way Out activates. When a survivor interacts with an exit gate, you receive a loud noise notification, and the entity blocks both exit gate switches for 12 seconds, plus additional up to 12 seconds for each token. So the way that No Way Out works currently in live servers is that the minute exit gates are able to be powered, the minute the last gen is done, No Way Out activates, and for every token, right, it just is locked, and then it goes away, right? Now it's kind of interesting because if you have survivors held up or if you're chasing them around, you're doing your thing, all right, if you're tied up, you can't really pressure that exit gate, right? Which means they just wait it out and they open it anyway. But now if they're farting around, doing whatever they're doing, they're in a chase, right? Then they go to touch it, boom, then it activates. So not only does it have a much longer effect, but it doesn't activate until they interact with the door. So if they're being a little greedy, a little cocky, it's gonna punish them. This combined with Remember Me is going to be incredibly fun and strong, and I don't know, I'm excited to try it out. And then Hex Crowd Control effect now lasts 20 seconds, which it used to be up to 14 seconds. Crowd Control is still not a good perk, in my opinion. It's not strong enough to warrant a totem, I don't think. Now, technical updates. The unhooking interaction now has higher priority than self-care interaction. If injured, the prompt for unhooking will no longer be replaced with a prompt to self-heal. This kind of stuff happens a lot, especially on like console. You'll go to like unhook somebody and you accidentally hit the self-care button. So now if you're near enough to unhook, you'll unhook. You won't self-care. All right, so this is an interesting technical issue that has been sort of updated. When a killer attempts to grab a survivor, but the request is refused by the server, usually because the survivor stopped performing the interaction, they let off the gen or whatever, the killer will now automatically transition into an attack instead. And in addition, achievement and challenge progress will be granted at the beginning of the grab attempt, regardless of whether or not it was successful. So this will make it easier to do any grab stuff in the future. Stun validation has been added to the hit validator. If a survivor has a pending stun on the server will reject the hit. This will be most noticeably in situations such as a killer who's attacking at the same time a survivor is throwing a pallet, and it should reduce instances where survivors appear to take damage after stunning a killer. I'm probably going to test this out today with people that are especially across the pond in other areas in the world and things like that to see like how good this works. So effects that improve a killer's hearing, such as a perk STRIDOR or the add-on swing chains, will only be heard from the killer's perspective. Survivors will no longer hear themselves as louder when the killer's running such effects. This is interesting. I don't think that many survivors should be able to just go, I'm super loud. They're running STRIDOR. Not that STRIDOR is like a great perk, you only notice it on spirits, but kind of a shadow buff to spirit, maybe? Interesting. I mean, like, this is fine. I don't think it really affects most games, but effects that modify sound are now multiplicative rather than additive. This means that sounds that are reduced to 0, such as injured noises by the perk Iron Will no longer be increased by perks such as STRIDOR and will instead remain at 0. This is really interesting. STRIDOR no longer counters Iron Will. If you're running Iron Will and somebody's running STRIDOR, you're still silent. This is going to be insane. And I really hope at this point now they can take a look at Spirit, now that they've addressed really all of STRIDOR and all of that. They can take a look at Spirit and really start to tinker with her and balance her and things like that. But Iron Will makes you deadly silent now, no matter what. Interesting. Tutorial updates. They have new tutorials for both Killer and Survivor, and menus now have tooltips that can be turned off for new players. Survivor visual updates. Updated the original outfits of Dwight, Meg, Jake, and Cloudy. Updated textures and materials on all prestige outfits. So we'll take a look at, I don't think I have any of them actually. Updated the facial model and textures of Ace, Adam, Claudette, David, Dwight, and Fang. Jake, Kate, Laurie, Meg, Nia, Quentin, and Tapp. So Quentin has new facial models. What? Updated various hair textures on Ace, Adam, Claudette, David, Dwight, Fang, Jake, Kate, Laurie, Meg, Nia, so all of them. Updated a variety of character outfits, textures, so I'm excited to hop in. Removed the ability for the plague to infect breakable walls. Fair. Reduced zombie network usage. So I think the zombies spawning in as Nemesis would actually, I don't know how that works, but it sounds like the zombies were actually like eating up a little bit more bandwidth. Keys with 0 charges no longer can open the hatch. That's good. It's a step in the right direction, right? If you've used add-ons so you can like look at auras and things like that, you shouldn't be able to then open hatch with the key. So that's good. It's a step in the right direction. They're inching towards fixing keys. Bug fixes. There is a ton of bug fixes in here. All right, so we're gonna just kind of gloss over some of these, right? Fix an issue that could cause frame rate stuttering when playing as or against Nemesis. You know, they've continued to fix Nemesis quite a bit. Fixed an issue that could cause frame rate stuttering when using the Mordeo outfit. We have all of these. Fixed an issue that can prevent survivors from being affected by the clown's blurring VFX when playing as Steve. So there's like some really interesting, interactions there. Fixed an issue that could cause Victor to remain stuck blocking a locker if the survivor inside it disconnects. That's a oof right there. So they've gone through and fixed a bunch of bugs. And remember, this is in the PTB. So fixed an issue that could cause survivors' legs to clip through East Office vaults in Raccoon City Police Department. So a lot of these are like Raccoon City. Prevent projectile killer from passing through certain planks, things like that. So definitely take a look at all of these. Fix an issue that could cause Ashley J. Williams to float temporarily after escaping a killer's grasp with the Ashy/Slashy cosmetic. Super weird stuff there. So, all right. Audio fixed an issue that prevented exit gate switches from playing the correct sound effects when struck by a weapon. Weird one. I didn't even know that was a thing. Various crash fixes, things like that. Frame drops when a variety of in-game events occur, such as adding new status effects, perks, activating or deactivating, and or input prompts coming up. These are especially noticeable for players using a HDD instead of an SD or a SSD. Some things to know. Female survivors' eyes and eyebrows are distorted when healing. I'm going to take a look at that. That's one of my favorite things I've probably ever heard. So, big stuff. Namely, Quentin has a new face, and I'm excited to see it. So, what do you guys think of the patch notes? Check it out over on our Twitch. We're going to be going over all the face reveals and everything today live as well and making a video about it. But what do you guys think? Let us know. When are we getting a spirit buff? Let me know down in the comments. I'll be praying to the entity to see you guys in the next video.